It's a curious thing how we navigate the tension between what we want and what the world demands. To live with purpose, or ikigai, is not merely a matter of self-indulgence. It's not about chasing after fleeting passions or whims. Nor is it about blindly sacrificing ourselves to societal expectations. It's about balance. And balance, true balance, is one of the most difficult things to achieve because it requires that we confront the contradictions within ourselves and the world around us. Why is it that so many of us feel trapped in lives that do not feel like our own? Why do we wake up each morning with a sense of heaviness, as though our days are something to endure rather than embrace? Perhaps the better question is, who decided what your life should look like? Was it you? Or was it a collection of expectations handed down from your parents, friends, teachers, or society at large? It's uncomfortable to admit, but much of what we do is shaped by forces we rarely question. And yet, if we don't challenge these forces, how can we ever hope to live authentically? The Japanese mindset behind ikigai offers us a framework, but it's not a prescription. It's not about finding a single answer or a magical solution that will suddenly make everything perfect. Instead, it's about asking the right questions. What are you good at? What do you love? What does the world need? What can you be paid for? These questions are deceptively simple, but the answers are often elusive. Why? Because we often don't know ourselves as well as we think we do. Take a moment to reflect on what you're good at. Not what others expect you to be good at, but what you naturally excel at. Are you someone who has a knack for solving problems, or perhaps you're gifted at empathizing with others? Maybe you've spent years trying to fit into a mold that doesn't suit you, ignoring your true talents because they didn't seem practical or impressive enough. But here's the truth: the world doesn't need you to be someone else. It needs you to be the best version of yourself. And that starts with recognizing and embracing your unique abilities. But skill alone isn't enough. Imagine being excellent at something you despise.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
How long could you sustain it before your soul starts to wither? This is why doing what you love is equally important. Yet, love is complicated. What we love isn't always what's easy or convenient. Sometimes it's messy, difficult, and even painful. But it's also what makes life worth living. Love, in this context, isn't just about enjoyment, it's about meaning. It's about engaging with something that stirs your soul, even when it's hard. Still, even if you've found something you're good at and love, there's a third dimension to consider: the needs of the world. This is where many of us get stuck. How do we reconcile our personal desires with the demands of society? How do we contribute to something larger than ourselves without losing who we are in the process? The answer lies in perspective. Instead of seeing the world's needs as a burden, what if we viewed them as an opportunity? An opportunity to connect, to create, to serve. After all, isn't part of being human the desire to make a difference, to leave the world a little better than we found it? The final dimension, earning money, may seem the most mundane, but it's no less important. Money isn't just a tool for survival, it's a reflection of value. When we're paid for what we do, it affirms that our work has meaning to others. But here's the catch: money without purpose is hollow. If we chase wealth at the expense of our values, we may find ourselves rich in possessions but poor in spirit. Conversely, if we neglect the practical realities of earning a living, we risk becoming idealistic dreamers who cannot sustain their passions. True ikigai requires that we find a way to harmonize these elements, so that our work not only supports us but also enriches us. Now, consider this: how often do we compromise one dimension of ikigai for the sake of another? How many of us settle for a job that pays well but drains us emotionally, or pursue a passion that brings joy but leaves us financially unstable? How many of us feel a deep sense of purpose but lack the skills or resources to act on it? These compromises are understandable, even inevitable at times, but they also come at a cost. The more we deviate from balance, the more dissonance we feel. And over time, that dissonance can turn into dissatisfaction, frustration, even despair. So what's the solution? It begins with honesty, brutal, unflinching honesty. We need to stop lying to ourselves about what we truly want and what we're willing to give up to get it. Are you willing to leave a high-paying job to pursue a career that aligns with your values? Are you willing to sacrifice certain comforts to invest in your dreams? Are you willing to face criticism, failure, and uncertainty in the pursuit of a life that feels authentic? These are not easy questions, and there are no right or wrong answers. But if we avoid them, we risk living a life dictated by fear rather than intention. The Japanese concept of kaizen, or continuous improvement, is a useful companion to ikigai. It reminds us that purpose is not something we find overnight. It's something we build, step by step, through consistent effort. This means that even if we can't align all 4 dimensions of ikigai right now, we can take small actions to move closer to balance. Maybe you start by carving out a few hours a week to develop a skill you're passionate about. Or perhaps you look for ways to bring more meaning into your current job, even if it's not your ideal role. The point is to keep moving, to keep adjusting, to keep striving for harmony. But let's not romanticize this process. It's hard. It requires sacrifice, discipline, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. There will be times when you question whether it's worth it, when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels insurmountable. In those moments, it's important to remember that purpose is not a destination. It's a way of being. It's about how you show up in the world, how you engage with the present moment, how you respond to the challenges and opportunities that come your way. And here's the paradox: the more we focus on aligning our inner fulfillment with outer expectations, the less we need to worry about finding our purpose. Because purpose is not something we discover, it's something we create. It's the result of living authentically, of embracing our unique gifts, of contributing to the world in a way that feels meaningful. It's not about having all the answers, it's about asking the right questions and being willing to live into those questions, even when the answers are unclear. Now let me ask you something: if you stripped away all the noise, all the expectations, all the fears, what would remain? What is it that truly matters to you? What is it that makes you feel alive? These are not questions for the faint of heart. They demand that we confront our deepest desires and our deepest fears. But if we're willing to face them, we just might discover that the life we've been searching for has been within us all along. Shall we continue? Let's take everything we've uncovered so far and bring it into the realm of action. It's one thing to understand the ideas behind ikigai, to contemplate the balance between what we love, what we're good at, what the world needs, and what can sustain us financially. But understanding alone doesn't change our lives. The real challenge lies in translating this philosophy into the choices we make every day. Because a life of purpose and fulfillment isn't built in a moment of epiphany, it's built in the countless small decisions that shape the way we live. Start with this: what does your typical day look like? How much of it reflects what truly matters to you? For most of us, the answer is unsettling. We spend hours doing things that feel meaningless, things that drain us, things that distract us. And when we do have moments of freedom, we often fill them with mindless entertainment or shallow distractions because we're so exhausted from everything else. This is not a judgment, this is the reality of modern life. But it's also a wake-up call. If we don't take control of how we spend our time, how can we ever hope to live with purpose? The Japanese have another concept worth exploring here, shokunin, which translates to artisan or craftsman. But it's more than just a job description, it's a way of life. A shokunin is someone who approaches their work, no matter how humble, with a sense of dedication, discipline, and pride. They don't strive for perfection out of vanity or ambition, they do it because they believe that excellence is a form of respect for their craft, for themselves, and for the people they serve. What if we approached our lives with the same mindset? What if we treated each moment as an opportunity to create something meaningful, no matter how small or ordinary it might seem? This is where ikigai becomes practical. It's not just about finding the perfect job or life path. It's about bringing purpose into whatever we're doing right now. If you're stuck in a job you dislike, ask yourself, how can I bring more of myself into this role? How can I use my unique talents to improve the experience for myself and others? If you're unsure about your passions, experiment. Try new things, even if they scare you. If you feel disconnected from the world, look for ways to contribute, volunteer, help a neighbor, or simply be more present with the people around you. Purpose doesn't always announce itself with grand gestures. Often it's found in the quiet moments when we choose to engage fully with what's in front of us. But what about those deeper fears that hold us back? The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being good enough. These fears are universal, but they're also illusions. Failure is not the opposite of purpose, it's part of the process. Every mistake, every setback, every wrong turn is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to refine our understanding of what truly matters. The only real failure is refusing to try. So ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? What risks would you take? What dreams would you pursue? And more importantly, what's stopping you? Here's a truth we often forget: time is finite. We don't get to choose how much of it we have, but we do get to choose how we use it. Yet, so many of us live as though we're waiting for permission to start living. We tell ourselves, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, or I'll pursue my passion when I have more money, or I'll focus on what matters when the timing is right. But there's no guarantee that someday will come. The only time we have is now. So what are you waiting for? If life isn't giving you what you want, maybe it's time to stop waiting and start creating. Living with purpose doesn't mean that life becomes easy. There will still be challenges, frustrations, and moments of doubt. But when we have a clear sense of why we're doing what we're doing, those challenges become more bearable. They become part of the journey rather than obstacles to it. It's like climbing a mountain. The path is steep and the air is thin, but the view from the top makes every step worthwhile. And even if we never reach the summit, the act of climbing, of striving for something greater, gives our lives meaning. Let's talk about the role of gratitude in all of this. In Japan, there's a practice called kansha, which means appreciation or thankfulness. It's not just about saying thank you when something good happens, it's about cultivating a mindset of gratitude for everything, both the good and the bad. When we're grateful, we stop taking things for granted. We begin to see the beauty in the ordinary, the lessons in the struggles, the opportunities in the challenges. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, and in doing so, it opens the door to greater fulfillment. Think about this: how often do we overlook the things that make our lives meaningful? The laughter of a friend, the warmth of the sun on our face, the satisfaction of a job well done. These moments may seem small, but they're the building blocks of a life well lived. When we learn to appreciate them, we become more present, more engaged, more alive. And isn't that what purpose is all about? Not some grand, unattainable ideal, but the simple act of living fully, moment by moment. Of course, there's a danger in overthinking all of this. Purpose is not a riddle to be solved or a prize to be won. It's not something we achieve once and for all. It's a practice, a way of being, a relationship with ourselves and the world. And like any relationship, it requires patience, effort, and a willingness to adapt. There will be times when we feel lost, when our purpose seems unclear or out of reach. But that's okay. Purpose is not about certainty, it's about commitment. Commitment to living as authentically and intentionally as we can, even when the path is uncertain. So where do we go from here? The answer is simple: forward. Take one step, no matter how small, toward aligning your life with what truly matters to you. Maybe it's a conversation you've been avoiding, a project you've been putting off, or a habit you've been meaning to change. Whatever it is, start now. Not tomorrow. Not next week now. Because every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to living with purpose. And isn't that the life we all deserve? A life that feels like our own, a life that we can wake up to each morning with a sense of excitement, curiosity, and gratitude. So I'll leave you with one final question. If your life were a canvas, what would you paint? Would it be a masterpiece of bold colors and daring strokes, or a timid sketch that barely reflects the depth of who you are? The choice is yours. But remember this: the brush is already in your hand. What will you create?